We're now into Chapter 4, Segment 1. In Chapter 4, there are 8 segments total. This is the first that we really start to get into detail with the actual construction of the business plan. So as always, welcome again to the Stewardship Small Business Academy. The title for Chapter 4 is Welcome to the Business Planning Process, and this is where we will in earnest begin that process. There is a business plan template that we provide to you as part of this course content, and it is in the learning management system. It's in the introduction as well as in this chapter, Chapter 4. You don't have to use our business plan template. We encourage you to because the flow of information with the instruction follows the template, but the SBA puts out a template, SCORE puts out a template. There's lots of templates out there, and certainly, for the most part, they contain the same components of information, but obviously we put ours there to make things as easy as possible for you. This is what it looks like, so you can download it and use it as you see fit. There are different placeholders for the title page, as you can see right here. So there's all the spots for you to fill in the appropriate information, including the name of the business. And if you just have a working name right now, that's fine. You don't have to, you may not have a name registered for the business or even determined, but there's at least a spot for you to put it there. If you have a logo or want to put one in, there is a spot for you to put a logo. The date at which the plan, either that you're working on or that it's completed eventually, and then the business owner or owners' names, and an address for the business. And this would be where obviously if the business plan is just for your use only, just use your address, it's no big deal. You could even delete the address if you wanted to. If you are going to use the business plan for a lender or an investor, you would want to put the address that you would want them to contact you and that they would use for their official records. And also your contact information, phone number, email address. If you've got a website, then you've got space for that as well. There is also a pre-made table of contents, and the table of contents, obviously when you're starting with the template, you don't have all the narration, the narrative statements filled in, and so the page numbers are just consistent for the way the template is set up initially. And then as you complete it, you will be able to, we'll give you the instruction for it, but you can right click on this and it's going to give you a spot that you can update the entire template, and it will change the headings to whatever you've labeled the headings, and it will correct the page numbers. So it is right now formatted to follow the appropriate flow of information with the headings, and then like I said, it'll also update the page numbers for you. So it's pretty handy. There's chapter headings, and then the way to use this template is, the chapter headings are there and they're consistent with the instruction in this course. And then what you would do is go to the appropriate chapter heading and then add the narrative statements below it. Okay? And then obviously, presumably at some point, you're going to edit that and rework it to whatever level of correctness and detail that you feel you need based upon the audience for it. Certainly it's the case that if the business plan is for yourself only, which the first complete business plan that I had was just for my wife at the time and myself, who were the two business owners of our accounting firm. And so it didn't matter, if I had some grammatical statements in there, it didn't really matter. Obviously I tried to be correct with it, but we were the only two that were going to use that plan. It was for our purposes only. We weren't seeking an investor, we weren't seeking money to borrow or anything like that. So, you've got to, the latitude with which you have at the thoroughness of grammar and composition is dependent on who your audience is. There's also an appendix section. So if you've got technical information, and what I even mean by technical is just detailed information that might contain drawings or additional descriptions. For the sake of example, let's say that you are intending on renting an office space. Okay? Well, certainly in the narrative section of the template, your business plan, you want to state that you found an office. You want to state some basic things about the town it's in, maybe the address if you've located a prospective place, the amount per square foot, something like that, just some real basic stuff. And then you would say, please see the attached information sheet for the property. Okay? And then that way somebody knows that You found something, you've done the research, your information is accurate, but then if they really want to dive into the details, they can go to the appendix, which is at the back, but you would reference where you put that in the appendix. Okay. Another thing to keep in mind, I mentioned this a little bit, but who is your business plan for? Okay, because that's who you want to write it for. If it's just for yourself, I said, just put the information that's helpful to you to build the business. If you're going to seek business partners, now maybe you've already got a business partner just serving as a facilitation of communication. I have used business plans for that, and even though I was the one writing the plan, I would write it. We would get together on a weekly basis. We would review everything. All of us would provide input on that, but I happen to have been the one that was writing it and creating the narration for it. But then that served as a facilitation to make sure that we were all on the same page with what the intention of the business was, how we're going to set it up, who would be responsible for what tasks, how money would be divided up, how financial obligations would be attended to. It takes care of all of that. Obviously, if it's a lender, then you want to address it, not just, you want to make sure you not only include the details that I just talked about, but you also want to make sure you include obviously if you're going to a lender, you're seeking a loan amount. So you've got to indicate what the loan amount is going to be, what the repayment terms are that you're anticipating or hopeful for, what the monthly payment would be, and that your cash flow for the business is sufficient that you can sustain those monthly payments. Now I'm saying monthly, some loans are quarterly, some are annual, it depends on how the loan is set up. Okay? But the lender has to be able to see that you included that payment in there, otherwise there's going to be a shortfall. Okay? And also just think through that with your specific situation, if you were the lender or the investor, what do you feel you would need to know? Okay? So again, a lender is looking for consistent repayment, probably on a monthly basis, but not necessarily. If you're an investor, the investor probably does not want a monthly financial return. If they're a partner in a business and it's their livelihood, that's a different thing. But a lot of time lenders are willing to invest their money for a year, 3 years, 5 years, something like that before they expect a return. But they want to know what the return is anticipated to be and how the business, the building of the business is going to sustain the ability to give them a return on their investment. Okay. In the next segment, we're going to talk about the mission statement, and then we'll move on to the vision statement.